Oh, pray. Father, thank you for an opportunity to look at the actually historical celebration of Christmas. And we would learn from this in Jesus' name. Amen?
Amen.
Okay. Now, first of all, I preface this by saying the early church did not celebrate the birth of Christ. That may seem strange, but it's a historical fact. A Christmas Day celebration, or anything like it, was not seen until 300 AD. So you look at this, Christ is born, we said our best guess, is 6 BC. We don't see anything like it until 300 AD. So you might say for over 306 years, the church did not celebrate the birth of Christ. You say, well, why not? First of all, they didn't know what day he was born on. It's very hard to celebrate someone's birthday when you don't know what his birthday is. And that was actually an historical fact. And we still don't know. And I remember studying this out. Oh, I'm going to figure this out. Who's got the right? I should have saved my breath. Okay? So, the things we do know, because the scripture says that the angel appeared to flocks by night, that he was born at night. That we do know. We know about the year. I would say the range is 8 BC to 6 BC is a range. In there somewhere, we have the birth of Christ. And we've mentioned this before. Does anybody know the historical marker? Jesus had to be born before someone died. Who was that? Herod. Because Herod was trying to kill the Christ child. Herod has to be alive. And Herod dies in 4 BC. Herod dies. So, and that's the Herod we call Herod the Great. And of course, he was not a great ruler. He was a great what, folks? Builder. Yes. Some of the greatest architecture from that era was constructed by Herod. So, and we know Herod heard about the birth of Christ from Magi, or wise men from the east, and he inquired, when did you first see this star? Then he gave orders to have every male child in Bethlehem killed who was 2 years or younger. So, from that, it may have been it may have been 2 years early. He dies in 4 BC, so you're at least back to 6 BC, around there. Anyways, that's our marker. That's what we know about his birth. But which day of the year? The other thing is, and it's right in the scriptures that they figured this out from. I have the notes here, but I'll just tell you as you're looking at it. It says they were watching their flocks at night. If you visit Israel, November through February into March is the winter month. It's colder. Occasionally it will snow in Israel, but not often. But it's the rainy season. And during this rainy, cold weather, you don't leave the flocks out by night. So based on this, it would be abnormal for shepherds during what we call the Christmas season in December to have their sheep to sleep out in the field with their sheep. So most historians believe that he was probably born you see in the spring, but that's a guess. So the winter is unlikely from those simple biblical facts we have. All right? And of course, some of you have heard where it came from, but we'll go through it with you. So, when it talks about early Christian tradition, like people wrote about this thing, what did they say? We can look at this. Our earliest reference is probably Clement of Alexandria in about 200 AD, who mentions 2 dates suggested in his time. Now Clement doesn't say this is when he was born. He's saying in the year 200 AD, people think maybe perhaps one of these other dates are the actual dates. So 200 years later, they're guessing. Okay? And so there's very little record about it. It's interesting because it's such an important event. It's like we know so much about it, but we know so little about it. It's kind of paradox, but this is what happens here. So, and the thinking the thinking for those two dates is really just the idea, and the author here relates it, maybe I'll just read it. Various speculations of the 3rd century date the birth in the spring, among these being April 2nd or March 25th or March 28th. These dates seem to have been related to the spring equinox, equal day, equal night, and the assumption that the earth was created at a time when day and night were of equal length, and that Jesus' birth must have followed the same creation pattern. That's a lot of speculation. That's no help at all. So, we have this, we have this unknown birthday of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, some things about it. The earliest Christians do not seem to have celebrated Jesus' birth. Now, here's the beginning of a celebration. The earliest celebration of anything even approximating his birth was that of Epiphany on January 6th in the Eastern churches. And you say, isn't that when the wise men come? Well, they were not pegging this as the date. They picked this day to celebrate, but let's see what it really means. Epiphany was primarily a celebration of the incarnation, of the coming of Christ, rather than of his birth. Meaning, on January 6th, they celebrated that God became a man. Not giving that date any, we're going to take a day to celebrate that God was incarnate and became a man. Later on, in Roman Catholicism, this became the date that they arbitrarily attributed to the wise men arriving in Bethlehem. But there is no historical evidence for this date. Okay? But it was chosen. So, the choice of January 6th may have come from pagan celebrations such as the Feast of Dionysus held on that day. But they're just speculating too. They don't quite know why they did this. The Roman Church seems to have begun celebrating Jesus' birth in the 4th century. Remember, the 4th century means from 300 to 400, or the 399. So, we don't see a real, quote, celebrating a day as his birthday until 300, at least 300 AD. That's what we're seeing. Now, we're going to look at why the Romans chose that. Here they mentioned Constantine. During his reign, some pagan holidays were Christianized, and it started. We're going to talk about that. We're going to go into more detail with some other authors here. Now, one of the things that is said, a quote by, remember we talked about Origen, the great theologian, but he also had some bad theology. But he led people to Christ, defended the faith, and then came up with this thing that the devil is one day going to come to repentance and be saved. It's like he was really sound or really off. No middle with the man. But Origen had a good point here. He said, Origen, early 3rd century, was right in observing that birthday celebrations are not distinctly Christian. He noted that in the Bible, only pagans are depicted observing their birthdays. Pharaoh's birthday was celebrated, Herod's birthday was celebrated. This is not, people say this, that they didn't celebrate birthdays, but there is one exception they never mention. In the book of Job, it talks about all his sons and daughters meeting on their day. Their day was their birthday. But Job was not a Hebrew. Job was a great man from the east. So it was, if you will, the heathen or the pagan celebrated your birthday. So you'll have some Christian groups who actually forbid to celebrate. That's why the Jehovah's Witnesses forbid the celebrating of birthdays. If you're a teacher, it's crazy. You have a birthday party, you got a whole bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses in your class. You're supposed to have an own party or something. I don't know what you're supposed to do with it. But anyways, I've been in that situation. You're offending the Jehovah's Witness because you're having a birthday party, and some schools have actually banned birthday parties based on it. Yes, these different, I know, it gets a little, you're so worried about offending people you can't do anything anymore. Yes, we're at that point, So, and the same with the Christmas tree. School districts who ban Christmas trees because it's a Christian, quotes, Christian symbol. But we'll show you that Christmas trees existed before they were Christian. Yeah, it was very interesting.
It was pagan.
Yeah, it was pagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, started with a pagan tradition.
Yeah.
So, and it's to one person, that star on the top of that Christmas tree represents Jesus, the light of the world. And those candles with lights on them, the churches are called, in the book of Revelation, they are the candle holders. We're the candlesticks. The churches of Asia are the candlesticks. So it's a beautiful representation of Christ and Christianity, but it did not come from Christianity. It's a pagan symbol that fits Christianity wonderfully. It gets complicated. People, anyways. So that's one position there. And by the way, just a point that I love about the Gospels. In the quote Christmas story, yes, you see the birth of Christ, but what you see is one group of people, another, God revealing himself first to the shepherds, then to the wise men, then to Simeon, then to Anna. And it's like each time they discover the Christ child, it's like, let's have a party. And of course, when one sinner repents, what do they do in heaven? The angels rejoice. So they have a party every time someone discovers the Christ child. And that way, maybe God planned for us not to know the day of his birth. Let's just celebrate each time someone finds him. And that seems to be the emphasis of the way the Christmas story is presented in the Bible. So, now, what was going on in Rome that they would finally decide on December 25th? I tell you, the bishop, by then they're calling him the Pope, and we're going to talk about why that is. The Bishop of Rome actually made the declaration, my mouth is still working partially, and he is Julius the First, who declared that they're going to celebrate the birth of Christ on December 21st. And he's in the 300s, in the 300s. We'll look at that a little bit. But what was going on there that they would choose this date? There were a couple of Roman holidays, and it's interesting because pagans, if you will, naturally celebrated certain things on certain days. And when you look at the pagan celebration of Christmas today, it looks a lot like the Roman pagan celebration of Christmas. It's like we haven't changed much. We'll show you those holidays, and you see if they are incorporated in the way people actually celebrate, quotes, Christmas today. So, Saturnalia. In Rome, where winters were not harsh as those in the far north, Saturnalia, a holiday in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture, was celebrated. Beginning in the week leading up to the winter solstice. The solstice is either 21st or 22nd, depending on the year of December. Yeah, the week before that, they would start celebrating, and it was for a whole month. Saturnalia was a hedonistic time when food and drink were plentiful, and normal Roman social order was turned upside down. Meaning you're getting the idea it's a drunken feast for over a month. Okay? And when you look at pictures of paintings of how it celebrated, they're pretty lewd. So this is what was going. They had a midwinter celebration to their god of agriculture. Let's see. And some interesting things happened in Rome at that time. For a month, it says, slaves would become masters, peasants were in command of the city, business and schools were closed so that everyone could join in the fun. I remember when I first went to Puerto Rico and I asked about, how they celebrated Christmas. Everything closes down for a month.
Wow.
and they have nightly parties. Yeah. Yeah, they have the Puerto Rican tradition is you go from house to house and then you celebrate at the house and take the people with you and go crash on the next house and do this, and in the morning no one's fit to work anyway. And how they go the next night. They do this for you can expect any time during the month, all these people to come and raid whatever food you have in the house and then take you with them and off you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it very much like Saturnalia. Yeah, interesting. So, Then there's a second holiday that was celebrated that time of year. You hear the word juvenile? Look at that holiday, Juvenalia. Around the time of the winter solstice, Romans observed Juvenalia, a feast honoring the children of Rome. Do we make a big priority with children on Christmas? Goes way back, folks, to Juvenalia. Yes, we have a day to feast and celebrate, and I'm sure kids got gifts on those days. And they made a fuss over them. And we do this at Christmas. And of course, it has more to do with the Roman holiday than it does with the Christian story of Christ's birth. Anyways, then there was a third god that we're going to do, a third celebration here. It seems the upper classes celebrated the birthday of Mithra, the god of the unconquerable sun. Well, of course, during the winter, the sun is at its lowest. In Greek and Roman mythology, the sun god was hurting or weak, and we needed to see him gain his strength back and recover and bring us a springtime. Well, they were helping him a little bit with their celebration. And that was believed by many ancient peoples. So that's that date, the 25th of December, was a celebration of Mithra. The infant god was born of a rock. That's the mythology behind it. And that's the day they chose to start celebrating Christmas. From this, kind of hypothesized that on the 25th, instead of celebrating a day for the birth of the sun god, we'll celebrate the real light of the world. He is the sun, the light of the world. But Julius determined on the 25th of December to do this. And so now we have a day to celebrate his birth so people can begin to do so. Now, let's see, I mentioned, if you will, in the early church, we'll add this, Easter was the main holiday, and the birth of Jesus was not celebrated. So, Pope Julius I, December 21st, let's see what it was first called. Christmas as a day, December 25th, was first called the Feast of the Nativity. All right? You know the old Jose Feliciano song, Feliz Navidad? Mm-hmm. What you're saying is Happy Nativity. And they call it Navideño, the Nativity. And if you go into any Hispanic home, they will have a nativity set. And they put that up, and when they start, they don't have all the figures. They start with just, they begin to add figures through the calendar month. But, so, the Feast of the Nativity, the custom spread to Egypt by 432. Now that's, I gotta get the exact one. They don't give you the year that Pope Julius declared this. They'll give you his lifespan so we get an idea of it. So we don't know exactly what year, but he did make this declaration. It took 100 years for it to spread to Egypt. Then by England, the end of the 6th century. End of the 6th century would be 699. They're celebrating in England. So it took what? And then a few centuries later in Scandinavia. So what we call a Christmas celebration took a long time to catch on. There it is. Julius dies in 352. So he has declared the 25th of December as, quotes, Christmas before 352. Now it gives you an idea. No, I didn't see anybody give an exact year when he made this declaration, but he's associated with it. All right. And the Eastern Orthodox Church in the East, they set a different day for Christmas celebration. Some of you know, if someone's a Greek Orthodox or Russian Orthodox, they use a different day. I don't even know all those. Okay? Now, about some of the things we do at Christmas, the Greenery. Okay? Absolutely pagan, folks, but not necessarily religious. So, long before the advent of Christianity, plants and trees that remain green all year had a special meaning for people in the winter, just as people today decorate their homes during the festive season with pine, spruce, and fir trees. Ancient people hung evergreen boughs over their doors and windows. So doing this predates Christianity, or predates the December 25th celebration, people just, Gentile people in various parts of the world use green shrubbery, or well, to decorate their homes in the winter. As some of you all know, it does kind of spruce things up, but when you take it down, the house looks a little bare. But not feeling? Well, people have been feeling that way for thousands of years. So this kind of thing has been going on as, you know, before Christianity was involved with it. It was just winter celebration. In the northern Europe, part of the thinking was, at this time of the year, food was scarce. So you slaughtered your animals. Any animal you didn't want to keep, you slaughtered it. So it was the one time they had lots of fresh meat. So they also had a big feast. And this was kind of a natural cycle going on. So the boughs and the greenery that we say, oh, it's for Christmas, it's been going on a long time. People who were not Christians were putting green boughs up in their homes in the winter season for different reasons. Some of it would have to do with, you know, keeping away evil spirits and illnesses and witchcraft. But it was a common practice in many places. Let's see. Oh, we've covered most of this. Let's keep going here. Even in Egypt, the ancient Egyptians worshipped a god called Ra, who had the head of a hawk and wore the sun as a blazing disc in his crown. There's a figure of Ra. Ra began to recover from his illness. This is the solstice happening and the days getting longer. The Egyptians filled their homes with green palm rushes, which symbolized for them the triumph of life over death. So culture, a pagan culture, very different from Christianity, is putting out the boughs in the winter months, symbolizing that Ra is finally going to come back to life here. Anyways, that's the history. Now, this Saturnalia that we mentioned, the god of agriculture, really what they wanted to do, they wanted his blessing before the agricultural year began in the spring. That's when they celebrated. And to mark the occasion, they decorated their homes and temples with evergreen boughs. There it is. The Egyptians, the pagan Romans, the Scandinavians, the Germans, I don't know, there's a bunch of people who did this. In Northern Europe, the Druids and the Celts also decorated temples with evergreen boughs as symbols of everlasting life. The fierce Vikings in Scandinavia thought that evergreens were the special plant of the sun god Balder. Interesting. Germany. What do we get from the Germans? The Christmas tree. Did you know that? Came from Germany? Here we go. So, let's see. 16th century, when devout Christians brought decorated trees into their homes, this is in Germany, some built Christmas pyramids of wood and decorated them with evergreens and candles if wood was scarce. Now, here's what we don't know, but this is a story that's told. It was widely held that Martin Luther, the great reformer, in the 16th century, first added lighted candles to a tree. Walking towards his home one winter evening, composing his sermon, he was awed by the brilliance of stars twinkling amidst evergreens. To recapture the scene for his family, he erected a tree in the main room and wired it with branches with lighted candles. So, they cannot prove this thing, but the story is told that Martin Luther started the lighted, candle-lit Christmas tree. There we go. Now, this is the part that gets kind of interesting here. Most 19th century Americans found Christmas trees an oddity. The thing did not catch on in the colonial days in America. The colonial days were without Christmas trees. The first record of one being on display was in 1830. That's quite a while. Yeah, 1776, your country, about a colonial period before that, not until 1830. German settlers in Pennsylvania brought a traditional German, the traditional German celebration with what we would call a Christmas tree. And they're like a community tree, I guess probably kept outside, 1747. But as late as the 1840s, Christmas trees were seen as pagan symbols and not accepted by most Americans. 1840. We're almost getting to the Civil War. Just a little before the Civil War era are people actually accepting Christmas trees. So, who got the ball rolling here? This is what stopped the ball from rolling. It is not surprising that, like many other festive Christmas customs, the tree was adopted so late in America. To the New England Puritans, Christmas was sacred. The Pilgrims under Governor William Bradford wrote that he tried hard to stamp out pagan mockery and the observance of penalizing any frivolity, meaning they considered Christmas so holy that you should not sing Christmas carols, you should not party, you should not sing, it should be a solemn day. So the great Scrooge was our Puritan forefathers. No Christmas celebration, you go to church and you worship God and you read the Christmas story, and anything else was actually prohibited by law. Yeah, so here it is. 1659, General Court of Massachusetts enacted a law making any observance on December 25th, other than church service, a penal offense. People were fined for hanging decorations. We have an interesting clash of ideas here. Now, about the Puritans, they were Bible-believing people. Well, you would call them legalistic. You know, if you catch a kid playing on the Sabbath, you give them a good sound whipping. And, you know, it's amazing. They had laws, actually, against children swimming. They wanted to teach them to work and not fool around swimming, so they actually had laws forbidding children to go swimming. They were a bit more legalistic than most of you would get along with. So though we praise them for their faith in the Bible as a literal word of God, we don't hold to their legalistic interpretations of the Scriptures. Yeah, it's a little different. So, if you will, when the Puritans began to lose their influence in the colonies and other groups came in, such as the Germans and other people, actually back in merry old England, the people who weren't Puritans did celebrate Christmas. And the Puritans were offended by their paganism. So we have this clash of values going on here. We still have it going on today in different ways. Queen Victoria. God bless her little soul. Let's see what she did here for the Christmas tree. You ready? 1846. Queen Victoria and her German prince Albert were sketched in the Illustrated London News standing with their children around a what? Christmas tree. Well, if the Queen, and she was a popular queen, if she celebrates Christmas and it's in the paper, even though it's a sketch of her doing this, it became very popular in England, and that sooner or later carried over into the colonies. So she had a place in the celebrating with a Christmas tree. Interesting. And of course, as it says, she was popular with her subjects, not like the Queen before her. And what was done at court immediately became fashionable, not only in Britain, but was with the fashion-conscious East Coast American society. The Christmas tree had arrived. Interesting. There they are, folks. 1890s, that's from the U.S. The German tradition has caught on with the Christmas. Someone is delivering Christmas trees. Yeah. Actually found out they're actually grown in all 50 states, including Hawaii. Somebody has a Christmas tree farm out in Hawaii somewhere. Oh. And then we see the early 20th century, you know, Edison and the light bulb. Oh boy. Once we got light bulbs on the things, it added a little, the Christmas tree was here to stay. So that you know, you're looking at, you know, the Christmas celebration. Now, this is why we're going to end with this thing now. We'll end a little early. But one of the things I've heard commentators say is once they had a day to celebrate his birth, it's like they made up for lost time. And one of the things that we have is the tremendous amount of wonderful Christmas music that God has given us over the centuries. Very interesting. I've been at parties where we're singing Christmas carols at a public school party, and some of the faculty is Jewish, and they